that they understand that this money be appropriated is meant to ensure prudent procurement, appropriate remuneration, and ratio payment to our men and women in uniform who are taking all the risk so that Nigeria may be safer. They need to be assisted to move away from the not too happy past where our men, evil government, I listened to a former president saying that he had a report that suggests that insurgents were better equipped than Nigerian army. That should not be the case. And this is not something we need to lament away. We need to deal with it squarely by ensuring that through our appropriate committees that deal with various arms of the Ministry of Defense, that our men and women are not only better trained, they should be seen to be better armed, not with AK-47 with limited ammunition. I think that is where the devil lies. And under your leadership, we should have the courage to open up and ensure that proper procurement is done and Nigeria gets value for money. Education is also job-led because we live in a world increasingly that, I think there's unanimity that we live in a world that is knowledge-based and knowledge-driven. And the way to acquire it is through proper education, appropriate education. And I think this budget reflects that sentiment. I also see that there is a sufficient attention to healthcare because no matter what we say, only those who are healthy will be able to work. And we can't overemphasize the importance of healthcare, and therefore the allocation to healthcare, I think, is also, for me, very important. But we need to use this floor, Mr. President. When we hear the figures allocated to debt servicing, most Nigerians will understandably wonder, why are we spending so much money to service debt? I think it's important that on this floor, we remind our countrymen and women that these debts have been incurred over the years. And some of them were incurred with many years of moratorium. And they have now fallen due for repayment under this government. And this government, because government is a continuum, has responsibility to appropriate whatever is required to maintain the image of the country so that we remain a nation that respects its debt obligations to various creditors. We can go on and on and on. I think the president was frank to admit that things can be better, but obviously, huge progress has been made. Only those who know where we are coming from will appreciate where we are, and that this new budget will take us to the next level. Mr. President, I pray that under your leadership, this House will be vigilant, not only in doing all we have to do at the level of appropriation committees, but that when it is finally passed, we should be seen to pay every attention to ensure transparency so that the intention of the president is realized. We have to assist the president to ensure that Nigeria get value for money. Thank you, Mr. President, for your patience.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator
Lawan, I represent Yobe Senatorial District. Mr. President, let me commend Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, distinguished Senator Bola Tinubu, GCFR, for this very historic budget, very bold and courageous approach to dealing with issues of security, of development, and welfare. I have 2 or 3 issues to focus on. First of all, Mr. President, defense appears to have the largest share. And that is the mindset of this administration, to secure us, protect us, and of course, our armed forces and other security agencies would have more resources available to them. I still feel that they need more, but within the limits of paucity of funds, I think we can say it's a big shift and it's a good trajectory which we must maintain. Mr. President, when we look at the implementation of the 2024 budget, and what will happen in 2025, which will end on that first March of next year. I believe that we have so much lessons to learn. Next year, 2026, distinguished colleagues, is going to be full of political activities. And therefore, we need to ensure that January to 31st March, in which 2025 will be implemented, and of course, the 2026 are implemented faithfully, we must work together with the executive to ensure that the political activities do not jeopardize the implementation of the budget, because this is the budget that will make us really put all the necessary infrastructure that we need. We had issues in the 2024. I believe that working together, ensuring that the processes in the Ministry of Finance of releasing funds are enhanced, and therefore contractors will be able to access their funds, and we should be able to ensure that such funds are made available and do not constrain the implementation of the budget. Because God forbid, if for any reason, for example, we are not able to complete to 2025 from January to 31st March, there could be abandoned projects. And that will also dovetail into the implementation of 2026 appropriation. So I believe that we have every reason to work together with the executive arm and to insist on ensuring that budgets are implemented fully. We are going to support, whether it is getting more revenues or borrowing. What we want is to have the infrastructure provided in the country. Finally, the Federal Ministry of Livestock was created, established by this administration. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, when I look at what is there for the livestock ministry, it's so paltry. The livestock industry in Nigeria is both an economic and a security issue, Mr. President, because the livestock industry alone is over 35 trillion naira today, and therefore is one sector of our economy that we need to pay attention. It is also a security issue because of what has been happening over the years between the nomads and the herders and of course the farmers. If we are able to stabilize this industry, this sector of our economy, we would have achieved both economic and security successes. So I want to urge my colleagues that we have a budget before us that will make Nigeria far better. And I'm so happy that there is so much generosity in providing the funds for every sector and every part of the country to ensure equal development and fair distribution. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Plan.
To us by Mr. President, what I see in the appropriation bill that I need to speak about is that this appropriation bill prioritizes microeconomic stability.
Chief Whip.
Microeconomic stability. And in it too, you will find job rich and growth. You also find infrastructural development. And so particularly, it is sector focus. And in the sector focus, the impact on individuals and the stability of the economy is exponential. I believe with the appearance of Mr. President before us, as he was talking to us, you could see his heart in his face. And therefore, there is high hope that the 2026 economic year may be more productive to Nigerians, may be more stable to Nigerians. And I feel with this laid out appropriation, it will be, okay. I'm commanded to remove my glass, and I respect Chief Whip that I should remove my glass. Thank you. And with what is on ground, I feel that we have a responsibility to support Mr. President on oversight so that his good dreams will be actualized in terms of appropriation. And I also want to plea, just as we saw the desire of Mr. President to extend the railroads, the rail lines from the southwest to northwest, maybe in no distant time, another thought would be looked at so that the northeast will be looked into. Because if if both sides are well dissected or well taken care of in terms of transportation, it will bring a lot of development. I therefore support and call that we have a duty to support this bill and then ensure
the of this budget, which is aptly themed or named the budget of consolidation, resilience, and consolidation, resilience, and shared prosperity. This budget, which is earmarked at 58.4 trillion naira, is remarkable because the four main things which Mr. President has set out to achieve: number one, which is extremely fundamental, the role of government, the primary security of lives and property. 5.4 trillion has been earmarked for this. Infrastructure, 3.5 trillion has been earmarked because without adequate infrastructure, the business, society, or economy can't thrive. On education, 3.5 trillion. On health and social services, 2.48 trillion. My plea is that this budget should be well implemented, exceeding the implementation of the last year's budget. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator.
So I represent Imo West. Mr. President, I would like to commend the President for this very realistic budget. What the most interesting to me about this budget is that the era of having multiple budgets have come to an end. From what Mr. President has said, in his budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, and shared prosperity, is that by the 31st of March 2026, the remainder of 2024 capital as well as 2025 capital would have been fully implemented. That means that we're going to have one budget running in the year 2026. That is remarkable. And for the first time, Mr. President, he has charged the Minister of Finance, who is also the coordinating Minister of the Economy, the Minister of National Planning, the Budget Office DG, and the Accountant General to ensure that this budget will be fully implemented. And if you look at the sectoral allocations of this budget, Mr. President, I've touched on the core areas of security and defense, human capital development, health, as well as infrastructure. That means that this budget is a budget that all of us believe that should be better than the previous budget. To me, this is a realistic budget, and this is cutting our coat according to our size. So I want to commend Mr. President for bringing this budget, and I hope, and I sincerely hope, that this budget will be fully implemented. Because Mr. President said it's not about what we present, but it is about what we deliver. That's what he said. So for a man to say that, it means that he believes in the 100% implementation of 2026 budget. So I rest my case by saying that we should commit this bill to the next stage. Thank you.
Like those who have spoken before me, I commend Mr. President for the priorities in the 2026 budget, most particularly for prioritizing security. Like most of you are aware, the bulk of my people
are refugees in their very own abode. For prioritizing security, it means if the budget is forced by people who go back to they go back to their farms, and thus agriculture will be encouraged. And so I urge my colleagues to support this budget and ask that it be read a second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senators,
Representing Kwara Central. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I rise to lend my voice to this budget of not only renewed hope, but a budget of, I would say, realities on ground. The facts and figures speak for themselves. With what we have before us, I don't think there's any other thing anybody wants to argue about or want to distill better than what has been presented before us. I think at this junction, it will be more pertinent for us to not only wish and hope, but to also come through an divine intervention of prayers that this budget will not only see the realities of the day, but it will be carried out to the latter, and it will succeed in this year of 2026 we are entering. I say this because we are going to an election year, and the performance of this budget will really help us and assist us to deliver a lot to our people, our constituents. So I want to join all those who have spoken in favor of this budget of Mr. President, that come 2026, every individual in this country will have felt the impact of this budget of renewed hope. And we pray that may the Almighty give the leaders the wisdom and the guide so as to not only deliver but exceed the performance of this budget. So I so submit.
about the very high hopes that this budget throws up. We have very high hopes that this budget will help to drive dreams and take us to the promised land. 2026 must be better. In Akwa Ibom South, we have very high hopes based on our expectations. We have ASCON that is very dear to our hearts. We have high hopes that ASCON will bounce back to life. We have high hopes about a deep sea port in Akwa Ibom State. I represent that part of our state. If there's one project that sits very well among our people, is the fact that the deep sea port must take off the ground and help to drive various trajectories for this country. A budget framework is at best a compass of fiscal expectations that helps to drive the dreams of a people. With what we have here, one trust that the framework of implementation will be taken very seriously. A budget framework is meaningless if not implemented. I trust that with the very high hopes that we have, and given the very seriousness, the very serious approach that Mr. President has taken, one trust that this budget will be well implemented. A budget that is well implemented is the superhighway to the greatness of a people. So I want to throw my full weight beyond the high hopes that this encapsulates, and I trust with very profound implementation, the hopes of my people in Akwa Ibom State will be well met. We will have outcome back to life. We'll have the deep support. I'm very impressed about the attitudes to defense. We need a strong defense framework to drive this country, to protect lives and property, drive investments. And that clearly helps to illustrate the dreams that we have. So I am one of those who are very hopeful that the best times lie ahead. And with the very serious approach that will drive this budget framework, especially, and I must emphasize, in terms of implementation. I'm also impressed about our navigation for a single budget. It's very, very important because this will be very tidy. It will create a framework for stability. So there are high hopes, and I trust that this budget.
Yes, distinguished Senator.
Senatorial district. I want to join all the supporters of this bill again, that this bill is a robust one. It is a compassing bill. It has taken into consideration all areas of our economies. But what I want to advise here is that no matter how good this bill is, without proper implementation, it will not serve that purpose. I will employ all our colleagues who are chairmen of committees to step up in their oversight function so that they can support Mr. President in making sure that this bill is the budget is well implemented and that everything is done according to what is planned here. I think together we can do it better if we follow this route. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to add my voice into this discussion.
Looks beautiful. Implemented. It is a budget that will present the gateway to a prosperous Nigeria. Mr. President, I want to say, however, that there are worrying trends in our economic development in recent times. I think that the chunk of money that has been allocated to infrastructure now will be properly and effectively utilized towards providing for especially road infrastructure, which is in some serious state of disrepair. Mr. President, even then, there is a worrying trend in our agriculture in recent times. Nigerian farmers hearken to the clarion call of government to go to the farms. They borrowed money, provided inputs to produce food. Mr. President, it is gladdening to note that the prices of some basic food items have drastically come down, but at a cost. That the farmers who went to borrow money at high interest rates are now in a dilemma, as the sale of these agricultural products will not adequately pay for the inputs that were injected into the production. I therefore hope that in implementing this budget, adequate attention and priority will be given to farm inputs that will alleviate the suffering of farmers as a result of the inflow of agricultural products without any corresponding inflow and cheaper farm implements and inputs. Mr. President, I just hope sincerely that with the repeal and the reenactment of our previous budgets, and this budget, Mr. President, has characterized as budget of consolidation, properly implemented, Mr. President, I think we are on a good pathway towards leading Nigeria out of the woods. I so submit, Mr. President.
The dismissed Senator Amos Joanna.
In payment of the contracts and all the services rendered. The practice today where the MDAs only can upload and wait for a centralized payment is hindering the implementation of our budgets. And so, as we support this beautifully crafted budget, federal government must review a system of implementation. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
The President for giving a place of prominence to the defense and security sector, because security is a primacy of governance. And the reason why the people surrender their sovereignty to the government is in return for government to guarantee peace, order, and good governance. So giving security place of prominence is highly commendable. Then two, budgets, no matter how beautifully couched and presented, remain in the realm of mere estimates if they are not implemented. I'm happy Mr. President has equally alluded to that, and the budget is going to be implemented to the latter with a view to bringing dividends of democracy to the doorsteps of the people. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, is there anybody who is opposed to this bill being read a second time? Okay. Read out a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 58 trillion 472 billion 628 million 944,759 naira only, of which 4 trillion 97 billion 381 million 103,856 naira only is for statutory transfers, and 15 trillion 909 billion 361 million 631,657 naira only is for debt service, and 15 trillion 251 billion 538 million 827,423 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23 trillion 214 billion 347 million 381,824 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st day of December 2026. Second reading taken. This bill is now committed to the Committee on Appropriation to revert to the Senate in 1 month.